Well, this is, I think, a piece of English walnut. Recently, I got a piece out of the same stack, and the bark looked a lot like that. It ended up being wild cherry. This is not wild cherry. At least, I don't think it is. Find out as soon as we start cutting on it. It's about 9 inches tall. It's 10 inches across this way, and it's about 5 inches at the biggest diameter. I was going to put it on a worm screw, but the wood is real soft under the bark and didn't want to grab, so I just used my little face plate, and that'll work fine. So I'm going to get it mounted up, and we'll start turning on it, and maybe we can confirm what kind of wood it is. Alright, we're ready to start cutting on this and see what we have. As you notice, it is a crotch piece. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it was pretty obvious. So let's move this over. See what kind of RPMs we can get. I think 550 is going to be good enough to get this kind of roughed out and balanced. So, and I got my 5/8 sweatback bowl gouge, 550 RPMs, and a brand new face shield. I don't know if the bark's going to stay on, but I'm going to go this direction now just to give it a chance. So right here I spend a lot of time trying to save that little piece of bark. In the end, it came off, and it was actually a lot nicer under the bark. I'm going to try to get some CA glue down in here. I don't want to lose that bark. And then I'll cut it away right here. And we'll get a tenon on it. I'm going to do a little more reshaping on the side wall there. It's a little bit too straight up and down. I've got 1,000 RPMs now. Alright, I need to flatten this here and then get a little dovetail on it. Okay. Let me get this ready to sand, and we can get it flipped around. Well, before I sand it, I think I'll go over it with my negative rake scraper. And I just have a lot of hopes for this. It really looks pretty. Let me show you what's underneath that bark. I've already popped it off like that. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sharp points right there. That would not be a bit surprised if there might be some burl there. Looks pretty cool though. So I'm glad I did that. Now that means I will probably have to have a fairly thick wall, or let me see how far. I'm going to turn more of this off and just touch the tips of the longer ones. So I'm going to do a little cleanup cut here. Then I'm going to flip it around and work on the inside. And I'll just sand both sides once I'm happy with what I have. We're all flipped around now, and I really like this area right here. I think that's going to look pretty cool once we get it cut. It will present a little bit of a problem though, working my way down to that. So I'm going to start in this direction a little bit until I see what it looks like, and then we'll start creating a wall thickness. Starting out about 650 RPMs. Got a 1/2 inch swept back bowl gouge. Because of this dip I have in here, I'm going to create the sidewall there with this carbide, because I can go pretty much straight down and control it a little bit better. Well, the bark is looking pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead with my 1/2 inch bowl gouge and start following the wall down. Alright, let's start checking the wall. Yeah, that's pretty consistent. Halfway down, so let's get that taken care of, and I am looking at some really pretty stuff, and right here at the crotch is going to be nice. Lots of colors. A little thinner right here. Let's see what we have. It's getting really close right there. I don't think I better take any more off of that. So I think I'm going to call that good and remove this and make it flat in there. A little bit more, and then we'll use the negative rake scraper. Alright, it's time to sand, and I'll show you a little bit of what I'm doing. I'm going to do the inside first. I'm going to use a 2-inch disc. I'm going to start with 80 grit, work my way to 400. I'm going to run the lathe forward at about 450 RPMs. And I'll do a little bit of that, and then I'll go to the outside. I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to run it in reverse. So I'm going to get my face mask on, and that noise you hear is I've got 2 big fans running. It's really warm. Okay. So that's going to be pretty easy. It looks good already. And we're going to go over here and go in reverse. So that should work good. I'll get this all sanded up, come back, and we'll put a finish on it. I have it all sanded up to 400 grit now, so it's time to put a finish on it. And I'm going to use a shellac based sanding sealer. I'll get a couple coats of that on, and then we'll get a couple coats of shellac on it. But let's start with the sanding sealer. And this is really pretty wood. Okay, there's a coat wiped on that. Let me get a little brush and we'll get some on the bark. This bark is not going to get real dark. It's kind of pale looking actually. And I went over it with a Sandiflex and it's as clean as you can get it. It's just a different kind of a bark. I'll get the other side of this and get 2 coats on everything, and we'll come back and I'll wipe a coat of shellac on the inside. So now it's time to get it ready for some shellac. And so what I do is I start out with the real fine Scotch-Brite, and since this is a natural edge, I'm not going to try to do this area, but I'll do this area. And I'm going to do this in reverse. And I'm just going to go over it with the Scotch-Brite, and I do have a void over here so it's not completely round. And that's pretty good. So now I'll just take this and I'll go over the rest of the area. I'm just knocking that down until it's flat looking again. So I'll finish going around this and I'll be right back and we'll put the shellac on it. Okay, I've blown it off. I'm going to go over with a clean piece of cloth just to make sure. Looks good. So now I like to use a piece of cloth to put the shellac on. So just same way as you put the sanding sealer on. I just wipe it on. I'm not going to go on top of the bark, but I'm going to go along the side of it. A little bit on the bark there. So that's it. I'll let this dry and check it, and I'll let you know if I put a second one on, but it'll be just like I did here. Time to remove the tenon, and its bottom is fairly thin right there, so I've got to be extra cautious. Got a block in my chuck and some of this padded material. And it helps give it a nice grip as well. Okay, let's see how that runs. Not bad. So I'm going to start out with this 1/2 inch 40/40 grind. About 700 RPMs to start. Okay, I'm going to just take this off and take it off with a little chisel because I don't want to take a chance on having that tear, and I may not have enough stock to sand it out. Well, I just took my little chisel and I carved that nub off and sanded a little bit here. I'll finish sanding it, get a finish on it, and we'll be all done. Alright, it's all done, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I really like this flame that I got in here from being a crotch piece, and I like the little dip in here from the two branches that created that crotch piece. And right underneath there, where I had these sharp points, which I dubbed over and suspected that it might be little burls, well, I still think that maybe is what it is. Sure looks like it. Even on the outside, I see what looks like small burls. I don't know how well that would show up, but right in here. I finished this with 2 coats of shellac-based sanding sealer and 2 coats of shellac. And I think it's a real nice finish. The bark is really strange. It's almost scaly looking when it's in a full log. When you get it turned down here, it just looks like real hard and shiny bark, which it is. Finished 8 inches at the longest and about 6 inches across this way, and at the highest point is about 3 3/4, and the base is about 4 3/4. Also, what was interesting, from the same batch of English walnut that I got, and this was a huge English walnut orchard that was taken down to plant something else, so I know it was all English walnut. The first piece was really light. This has been sitting under a tarp for over a year. Perhaps it was going to be dark anyways, I don't know. Maybe it was the size of the piece. Either way, I really like it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment, I read them all. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when I have a new one out. It would also be great if you could share my videos around. Thanks to all of you who are subscribed to my channel. It means a lot to me. If you're not subscribed, consider doing so. I do many types of turnings, from segmented work to natural turnings from pieces of trees, and I put out videos weekly. Thanks again. Until the next time, see you later.